Not much. That's good. You start getting 70, 10 years back. Everything you're going to do. Well, I mean, I can jump on just to hear what's going on in your reports. I guess. They're all
this afternoon, there's the yes, information on what they're talking about. And that's actually
yes, sir.
Where's the
158. It is 158-431-725. My pleasure.
never thought you would say or you call it.
All right, we're waiting for you.
Well, let's go. Starting the recording now.
Give me the right number.
I think
Give me the backup. It says I'm waiting for you.
I'm struggling with go-to right now.
All right.
Let's do it.
It's very secret. Don't tell everybody.
I should tell it's like the whole.
How are we gonna protect all the secrets now? I mean,
We can remember.
nobody tell anybody.
Yeah, I'll tell you what it is for the press box that recommends. Madison, same one for both of them.
Well, uniformity is key in simple. How we done?
I'm struggling at the moment.
All right, people ready? All right. Oh, Sean Gregg's here. See you, Sean Gregg. All right. Like to call board supervisor meeting to order. As always, let's start with the pledge of allegiance and moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We do have a quorum. We need to adopt an agenda. Anybody have anything we need to add to this agenda? Oh. Yes. Put that as far as special appearances. New shelter manager. You have a speech written up, correct?
Absolutely.
That's the way I. All right. Anybody else have anything? Let's play the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. As always, let's start with public comment. Public comment. This man, Ms. Linoff.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Lenhoff, and I want to speak on Leathers Lane, and I don't know if I should do it now or if it's part of the agenda
Oh, let's
in
go
any way,
ahead.
because I am going to hold it might be.
Let's go ahead.
I'm going to read something, just kind of a series of things that have happened since the past Monday, and I know Ms. Hohen and the Kirbys want to speak after me. 6 residents at Leathers Lane have followed the county's position on getting road work done. We sent our paperwork to y'all. We attended board meetings, walked the road with Matt Ayler and our contractor, and we got approval to lay number 3 stone and crush and run for 2 work areas. One we call work area 1 and work area 2. Would be a spot tooth and nail and has done everything in his power to derail the work we're trying to do. This past Monday, on November 2nd, our contractor, Robert Hoffman, completed the work in work area 1. He laid the number 3 stone in the crush and run. If you all recall, you agreed on the crush and run. This past Thursday, Daryl Whidbey had Mr. Basil, another contractor, lay gravel from the beginning of Leathers Lane all the way down to the beginning of Mr. Whidbey's property line where his house is located. Our work area 1 is right in the middle of that. So he essentially took all the work we just had done, thousands of dollars worth of work, and laid gravel on top of it. We do have witnesses to this. We have video, we have photos. Daryl, a short time later, approached one of the witnesses and made a comment to the witness, and then went up to the same witness later on their own property. And Mr. Whidbey spent the good part of Thursday afternoon into Friday, I think past midnight, with his tractor removing the gravel on work area 1. And in doing so, he further damaged the work we had done. He had removed at least an inch of the crush and run. We haven't even paid for this yet. Then on Friday, my husband, Brian, who couldn't be here, he's meeting with Mr. Hoffman, called Mr. Basil to find out what Mr. Whidbey asked him to do. And Mr. Basil said, I did exactly what he told me to do, is to lay gravel from the beginning of Leathers Lane down to the fence, which is where Mr. Whidbey's property is. Mr. Basil said he ordered 2 to 3 loads of gravel, and that he was to meet Daryl sometime on Friday to lay the 3rd load. Daryl didn't show up. Mr. Basil tried to call him, and there was no answer. So Mr. Basil just left. So today, Mr. Kirby was driving on Leathers Lane and saw Daryl on his tractor around work area 1. And Mr. Kirby took a video, which we've been advised to do by the Sheriff's Department and some other people that we've spoken to. And you can hear him, something dragging, his tractor dragging. Mr. Woodby has willfully damaged the road work we've done. Additionally, Mr. Woodby has dug trenches, all kinds of things, and Mr. Jackson was on the walk with Mr. Ayler. It was all pointed out. There was a trench at the beginning of Leathers Lane that Darrell dug without the permission from the county. Mr. Hoffman filled it in. And just today, as my husband and I came up to Leathers Lane, Mr. Whitby and his wife, they had their tractor and they redug the trench. That's not approved by the county. That's disturbing the ground on the road that you all own. Every lot owner at Leathers Lane, we like your position letter. We have all followed it with one exception, and it's Mr. Whitby. He continually digs trenches. He's altered the lay of the road. He is still fostering plants along the right of way in front of his house. There's logs, flags. You all know about the booby traps, all that kind of stuff he laid. We've spent thousands of dollars on this road work, and because of you all doing nothing about it, it continues. And here we are again. I want to read something, two things in the county's position letter. Line 7, as owners of the underlying land, Madison County reserves the right to exercise its ownership interest in the road by confining the actual roadway to its present condition and location. Madison County likewise reserves the right to prohibit any repairs or modifications to the roadway, if any such improvements without the prior written consent of Madison Supervisors may be subject to criminal prosecution. Y'all still aren't doing anything about it, and we still continue to fight. We have to live this every day. And also on 9D, all residents shall have a revocable license to undertake the routine basic maintenance along the road. We are asking that you revoke Mr. Whitby's license to do anything on that road. I think Ms. Owen wanted to say something nice.
My name's Robin Cohen, and I live at 421 Leathers Lane. We are concerned, my husband spoke with Mr. Hobbs, and as did I. We are concerned that damage is being done to county property, and we're concerned that Mr. Whitby needs to be held accountable for the actions that have been done. If you fail to hold him accountable for damaging the road which you approved and which we have spent a lot of money to repair, it sets a very dangerous precedent that there is no penalty for actions. And it also creates a potential for escalation. If people are not held accountable for their actions, then others believe that they can also do things. And what is to stop, hypothetically, someone from removing gravel on a section of road that Mr. Whitby has repaired? You're creating a very dangerous situation of escalation if he is not held accountable for his actions, for the damage that he's done to the road. And finally, if you don't hold him accountable for this damage, what is to stop this behavior of damaging this road? We implore you, please, we need your help. We've worked very hard to get this done. There are, of the 10 residents who live up there, 6 residents have gotten together to fix the road, 2 have not, and 1 has damaged the road. I would therefore conclude that the majority of the people are in favor of repairing this road as it stands. This is the only section that has not been maintained by Mr. Whitby over the years. The gravel continuously washes out, which is why we asked to repair this section, as well as the second section that the Kirby's will talk about. So we ask your help in stopping this damage and holding this behavior responsible, holding him accountable. Thank you.
I wanted to say one more thing for Mrs. Kirby. One thing I left out is, although I know that y'all may be changing the county's position, which is fine, we are asking for, if there was something called this, an emergency cease and desist, because we are getting ready to do section 2.
Some of this is going to be repetitious. I'm Sherry and this is John Kirby. We live at 604 Letters Lane. I'm going to read it because I'm nervous. We need to have this issue resolved before we continue to finish the project of repair and maintenance on the road. You have not protected us. We need to know that our investment in the road is protected by you. What do we need to do to make you understand our frustration, our fears and anxieties, our assault on one of the members who is here today? There has been assault. John and I are in our late 70s and had hoped that we could enjoy peace in our retirement. And right now, each day, when we drive through Leathers Lane, we don't know what awaits us. We are weary of this. There have been no consequences for Mr. Whitby. He is allowed to do whatever he plans and pleases to do on the road. Do we have your permission to dump 2 loads of gravel on the road in front of his house? On the grass and trees he has planted in the road right away? On the bench and logs and fence he has built on the right of way? If so, we will, if we need to, we will pursue our options and hope for your help.
I'm going to read a letter I sent. All of you hopefully received it. Hopefully had an opportunity to peruse the letter and give us some information. It says, this was sent out last Friday. Greetings to all of you who have some interest in the planned maintenance to be done on Leathers Lane. In the interest of clarity, we have divided Leather Lane into the upper section and the lower section. The upper section is from the intersection of Leathers Road and Leathers Lane down to Whitby's Lot 20. The lower section is from Whitby's Lot 20 down to the Kirby's driveway, where it intersects with Leathers Lane. Our properties abuts all the lower section. In the past few days, some of the work completed on the upper section has been altered by Mr. Whitby's action. The maintenance work to be done on the lower section by Mr. Robert Hoffman and will hopefully begin next week. We are personally funding the maintenance work to be done to the lower section. The amount is approximately $4,000. We are asking for assurance from the recipients of this email that Mr. Whitby will not be allowed to alter the maintenance work done by Mr. Hoffman now and in the future. We will advise Mr. Ayler, I'm sure you all know, as soon as the work is ready to be inspected. In response to this email, we request assurance from the Madison County Board of Supervisors, the Madison County Administrator, and the County Attorney. Sincerely, John and Sherry Kirby. Any questions for me about that? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby. Yes, ma'am.
I'm here because my mom asked me to come because as graceful as some people may seem in front of others, my mom has felt our family for the last years in tears.
And your name,
Absolutely, and there was all.
please, proceed.
My mom was in tears yesterday morning and she, over this issue because of the harassment she has felt from our neighbors about this. So she asked me to come this afternoon with my dad because she couldn't take it anymore. My dad, I'm quietly witnessed all of this and I stayed back in there because I'm not the owner, I'm legally, but I live on this road. I see what goes on. I'm there when anyone else is there. And my dad has worked on this road for years and kept it up. He's never done anything without permission. He's kind of neighbor, hey, you need something, he's there. But when someone doesn't get their way, some people tend to act out mandatory. And when other people aren't looking, they show themselves. I'll say that. Okay? The rock that was laid on top of what they had done was done honestly by mistake. The contractors had misunderstood my father. So my mother and my father went out and worked almost all night to remove the gravel as best they could. It was an honest mistake. That's the kind of person that my mom and dad are. Okay? Now, the work that needs to be done, someone please show me where our job is for every day. It's safe. It's fine. And I understand if anyone wants to change it, this or that, make minor things to make it more stable for them. All right? At the beginning, I'm looking at one thing. At the beginning of the road, little ditch, they try to say Dad did something without permission. They moved that ground around without permission themselves. But again, they word it so delicately and eloquently. That makes my dad sound awful, and it's not true. They do, obviously, I've been saying, I watched the video, and I'm harassing my dad. I won't say everything right now. It's inappropriate. All right? But is anyone want to add to this right now? In the middle of this?
Hands up there, all right.
Yeah, Bigfoot's driving down from Bigfoot there, Big Road.
I was highly impressed, I liked it. So I said, well, I'm gonna pay, keep it relevant. I told him, the guys, I'm gravel for him, to stop it, wouldn't say that's the first driver. And he's, then it came home, and I got home, I seen it, I said, man, I need to fix this quick, because they did a lot of work into it. And I was impressed, I said, man, I'm gonna do this. So we did, we went, we shot them, break, stripped them, but we inspected them. Handled it, all like that. And wait for a comment from them, or to contact them, so what time we get back. I said, they never come, we talked to them, stop, all they did was come back and thing like that. I said, okay, we stop. And I said, let's get to this point. I said, I'm willing to get back, with stuff down. So, about the beginning where the ditch is, the water runs off from the state road, on the hill. It runs right into the road and floods it. Every time it rains, it's supposed to rain tomorrow. So I said, they took out the ditch because they wanted to show the county how to flood it. I said, well, take that ditch to look at it. They put the ditch in small trench, probably a couple inches, and that diverts the water, so they don't have to shut on
And also, they say they don't know what to expect when they come home. We don't either. There was never any problems with any of the neighbors until this started, and it wasn't everything they wanted. So then they turned on Dad because he wants to leave the front of his property the way it was. If any normal person would like to leave the front of their property the way it is, they're happy. So, that's pretty reasonable.
Also, back in February, I was on my tractor, and this owner came by, and I was stuck this picture on the top of some previous years. And I mentioned to her, I said, I'm ready to drive. I will pay for it. It's the whole road. Y'all want to help, it's fine. But I was going to, third section they're going to do, I was going to do all the way down, lot they can, their house. I was going to pay for it. But they want to pay nothing. And they come up with a solution, or well, we can do this, and it shows back in February where they can do a bunch of work in front of our house and have us pay for it, and all the neighbors pay for it. They want to take over, and it ends up to this. If I didn't mention this on, we might not be here, I've already been fixed and all paid for it. But that gravel, the contract laid out, that wasn't a mistake, and I'm here to help with that part. Other parts, I mean, gravel.
My dad said nothing but reasonable about it, and I would submit to, leave it as is. What it is they want more done, and I believe personally that they're not being completely transparent as they lied here before, saying like everyone's permission, and that was proven false. They lied once again to the county this afternoon. That's proven false. Dad, can you give them the call?
Yeah, they said I'm supposed to drive on the tractor.
They call them false accusations again and again. And we have it.
Here it is, proof. Proof, and it said I was wrong. Deputy stopped by, brought a lot of tests twice.
He said, just leave the road as is.
As it is.
All right, one more time, then we're gonna talk about this.
All righty, a couple of things. I'm just gonna say everything that just came out of their mouths is untrue. Mr. Basil did say, Daryl, you do have a witness as to where he was to lay it. We gave Mr. Whitby several days to approach us. I did send him a letter a few days later, telling him we know what he did. He never approached us. And the reason I'm not approaching him is I'm the one he assaulted, which we're pursuing. And there is no way on God's green earth I am going to walk up to this man and knock on his door.
Excuse me, one moment.
but
That's
anyway.
completely false.
And you are caught in a lie.
All right, hold on.
You.
All right, no.
Completely false.
We're gonna go back to generalized public comment in just a second. The assault deal, that's between parties interested in law enforcement. That has no pertinence here. It would seem that the course of action that we need to go down at this point is that all work done on Leathers Lane has to come in front of us with a proposal. That includes maintenance and everything else. Anything that would stray away from anything that we approve would be outside, and the county needs to pursue something. John, right? You have any thoughts on this?
Mr. Housen, I spoke about this earlier today. it's a difficult position for the county to be put in the position of an enforcement agent or a private subdivision. The reason people live in private subdivisions is because they don't like rules. We attempted, apparently without any success, several years ago to come up with a proposal. And obviously that is fraying around its edges. I believe the appropriate thing to do is for the county to infer, and Mr. Hobbs and I, have spoken, some comments, in terms of what is the appropriate way to handle this. This board may recall, before I became county attorney, this subdivision had been mired in a fairly expensive litigation that I think lasted for about 3 years, as near as I can recall. I remember Mr. Shackelford, Mr. Thomas, Fallon, Myers, and Lawrence, and there may have been 1 or 2 other law firms that were involved. And I thought that out of that, we could come up with something that would work. Clearly it doesn't. So I think we need to
At this
go
point,
back and see what we can do.
Mr. Wigby has a license to do maintenance,
As does everyone.
as does everybody else. I think we should revoke everybody's license to do anything to this road, and anything that's done to this road, since the county does own the land that it's on, has to come in front of us with a written proposal on the direction to go. And that would include maintenance. And that is not against one party or the other. Anybody can make proposals. Hopefully we stop hearing about this at every meeting. Is that not a reasonable course of action at this point? Go ahead.
I agree, but I think, have we not already approved the work
Yes.
done on work area number 2?
Absolutely. 1 and 2 has absolutely been approved.
Correct.
How can that be protected? I don't want to lose $4,000.
Agreed.
Everyone's license is revoked, period.
Yes,
If
so the work
someone's
will be
damaging
done,
it, then,
the work will be done.
but remember, the action for this is going to have to be brought by the residents. I don't see the county wanting to initiate any litigation.
Mr. Griffin, can you speak up?
Sarah, take this microphone. Here.
So you're saying we can go ahead with section 2?
Work 1 and 2. Sorry, Sean.
And if anybody wants to do anything to area 1?
Work 1 and 2 has been approved by the board. Anything else on top of that, I think personally, is hereby revoked.
Yeah.
And that's licenses, or whatever we're calling it. No more grading the road. Anything that wants to be done needs to come in front of us with a written proposal.
And then the final comment on that is any enforcement actions with regard to this are not going to be initiated by Madison County.
Fine.
So the position paper is going to be changed to meet some of the needs.
Does this seem like a reasonable solution?
The county has not discussed changing the position paper except to revoke everyone's license.
And how about enforcing the position paper?
We are not going to discuss the minutia of this, particularly since this board, the county administrator and I have not had an in-depth discussion about it. We're certainly not going to do it in a public comment period.
Thank you.
Are we going to be able to go ahead and do
Work 1 and 2
work area 1?
Work 1 and 2 has been approved.
Right.
At this point, is it something we could draft a letter from us saying, we can send it to all the residents with this addendum saying licenses are revoked?
We can certainly do that.
Sign here.
We can do that.
Does that sound
It's their
reasonable?
position, yeah.
Everybody good on this?
Yeah.
The previously approved work, speaking specifically to item 1 and 2 on this current project with Mr. Hoffman, is approved. Anything more than that has to come in front of us in writing.
And if something happens, who do we call?
That's good.
No, I agree.
Law enforcement, if it's a criminal matter.
There you go.
If it's a civil matter, call your respective attorneys.
One point of clarification. We are asking Mr. Hoffman to repair section 1, which was damaged. It was approved by the county. Do we need to get additional approval to repair the work that was damaged?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Now, Mr. Whitby, this it falls on you as well. I know you've taken it upon yourself to bring in loads of gravel and, prior to this, but you cannot do that now.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Webber, please.
We'll help them fix the road back to section one because
No.
If
The
they're
licenses are revoked.
If they're declining, and I appreciate I think it's genuine and I appreciate the consideration to make the repair. What?
So they're accepting full responsibility.
They're accepting full responsibility, and they're gonna fix it. No more water bars in the road, nothing. If any work is done, then it's the responsibility, if it's criminal, then law enforcement. If it's civil, then respective lawyers. But any work that the county approves, 1 and 2 is the only items. Everything else must cease. We will be getting you all, every resident, I assume that it can't be that house up there. Was it 10, 12?
Less than
All right, handful. Anybody that's a property owner up there is going to be getting a letter from us pretty shortly. That one? Yes, sir. No.
All licenses are revoked.
The other,
Period.
The other one that's worth going down, I think we should include it in the letter. Anything that is within that right of way, anything, must be removed.
Say that again.
Anything that is in the right of way must be removed. How wide is the right of way, Sean Gray?
I believe it's 50 feet.
50 feet, 25 from the center line, must be removed. Yes, ma'am.
That's my question. Do you mean objects that are not naturally there?
Yes, you don't cut down trees.
Okay, and that's fence has been there.
It's in the right of way.
It zigzags the trees.
It's not been there for.
Well, I mean, it's been there long, it's not interfering
It's
with your general
it's in the right of way.
Anything in the right of way must be removed. Measure it, figure it out. The fence doesn't seem to be the problem. It's flags, logs, anything else that's up there, got to get out of that right of way. Can you add that to your letter, Mr. Gregg?
Sure.
Thank you. Are we all good on this?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other public comment? Other public comment? All right, moving on. Before we move too far, it is Tracy Gardner's birthday today. Happy birthday. Starting strong, Tracy. I would like to welcome our new shelter manager, Megan Ingram. Greg's going to talk positively about her in a position that he's very sad about losing. Go ahead, Greg. Yeah.
Stand up, Megan.
Yeah, stand up.
Everybody can see you.
No, both of you. Stand up, Greg Cave. Don't shirk your duties. Go ahead, Greg Cave. Tell us about you losing this fine position.
So she started Monday. She's still here, so that's a good sign. We've been in training, looking over the animal shelter policy, the shelter operations. Met with Dr. Ryan Wolfab a couple times reviewing the medical policy. I think she has room to learn, and so far she's doing really good.
Greg's been a great help. I'm excited for this opportunity. I'm glad to be back home. Thank you for having me.
Welcome. All right. Yes, sir.
So, this position does not come with a badge like Greg has or a sidearm. Can give you that, can give you
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
like that.
Welcome to Madison, Megan. All right. Any other special appearances, Hall? There you go. We do have a consent agenda in front of us. What's the pleasure of the board on the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion?
I would point out that I got the total from Ms. Costello earlier, but the total for the capital projects from bond proceeds is $451,900.48. This includes amounts that went through the school capital improvement committee I guess it was last week.
Yes, sir.
And one bill from the Public Safety Radio System Consultant.
Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ms. Fry, where are we at on advertising and all the fun stuff that goes along with these committees?
We still need one person for the IDA board. We're gonna have to advertise for, Rappahannock and Community Services. This Lillard's term expires at the end of the year. And also, this is on the planning commission, but I think they changed the bylaws and she can serve again. Am I correct, Ms. Johnson?
That's correct.
Okay, and then of course, Mr. Fisher is going to be behind it in January. Otherwise, we still have, but then on the, your term drive, you'll see the big flag. You all decide what you want to do for the, before we do the organizational meeting. And I wasn't sure as far as people who are the different committee and all that, but you want to appoint every January, you want to redo them, or you want to advertise for new people.
I wouldn't say we're real good at soliciting people. We've gotten some really, really qualified people, like really qualified, but it hadn't been like a flood of them. If people are willing to serve again, I'd certainly think we'd take advantage of the opportunity. Any way we could reach out to the people that are up and willing to continue serving and see what they have to say. And then also, and this, is it something we could come back to at the meeting in November and then figure out where we need to advertise so we can start advertising in December so we can fill these positions the first of the year? But we should talk to her and see if she's willing to serve again.
She does, she told me.
Oh, good, and that's one X we can cross off.
Mr. Fisher, he's not doing it yet.
But it sounds to me like we're gonna have to re-advertise for Mr. Fisher, definitely. Ms. Lillard on the RCSB board. What?
Unless you know something.
I don't. I don't. Hopefully somebody really good will come up. Ms. Lillard's done pretty well for us. But probably gonna have to advertise that, but let's come, why don't you check with everybody else and then come back to us.
There's a couple of them
That are out, are termed out.
at the end of December. They've served 2 times. I'm not sure.
We've got Parks and Rec meeting on Monday. We will bring it up.
Yeah. There's 3.
Yes, who is that? Ms. Ryan?
Kendall, Mooney, and Nathan.
Kendall, Mooney, and Nathan.
And I think Nathan and Mooney have done 2 terms. I'm not sure of their bylaws.
All right, we'll check about term limits on PRA board.
Okay.
But we'll ask them. And you'll check with everybody, some other folks,
Okay.
and then we'll see what we got to advertise at the second meeting in November, starting the advertising in December. All right, that work for everybody? All right. All right. As always, let's go around the room. Mike Moscow, you're in this corner tonight. What's the planning commission doing?
Well, things kind of slowed down a little bit, but we would like to make a proposal to the board in the near future that we establish a following figure application fee what we want for large scale solar facilities. We proposed that a couple of years ago, but it never went anywhere. We had a $1,500 fee for cell towers, but we have nothing for these solar project applications. We're going to propose that in the near future.
Sean Gray, you'll look into it and give us some advice when the proposal comes. All right. What do you got back there, Ligon?
On that solar development, I'm putting together the ordinance and going to advertise it, and we've just been kind of busy with various outside things that are going on. So I was going to propose that for a month from now, December 8th, if that's okay. We'll do the ordinance advertisement for that day. Give us a little more time to make sure we've done it correctly. I didn't want to rush last week. I did show privilege of a school, someone who's interested, and I have just put a listing up on Zillow and have approved it. So everything else is selling and getting interest, so They have to approve it, so they're supposed to call me and, fill the listing up and, description of the building and what the, you folks are looking for in someone to buy, sit on it, when you buy and develop it. And that's the most important thing. So hopefully that'll be up online next month. Otherwise, move along.
You're advertising it as a building with antiquities, correct?
Yes.
That's the way to put it.
Bring proposals forward.
All right, I'm gonna put him on the spot. Cardi, you have a comment about his shop?
Oh, yeah, well, there's construction going on next to me in Etlin and across the road from me in Etlin. And today, both property owners told me how well that our inspectors are doing, how cooperative they are and timely they are. So I just wanted to let you know that everybody's very happy with them, with April, yeah. Yeah, they said you were easy to get along with. Do so, and kudos to them and April and everybody in that office, man.
What? Oh, yeah, and Ligon won his election in Lorraine.
Yeah. A couple hundred, yeah.
Very good. Commish, how are we doing?
We're doing good. We're wrapping up the landings, getting that all taken care of for everybody. Working with our personal property right now with the bills that went out and the adjust, do adjust, and that sort of thing. So, we're good, staying busy.
Yeah, please. Brian, I was looking at the VACO priorities for the 2021 year. So in there is the cigarette tax. I'm sure they said that commissioners of the revenue have been in on how this might play out should the county decide to pursue this. So so you are aware? Okay, all right.
Good. Anybody else got anything for? All right, Commish. Noah.
October was a busy month, 136 calls. Our average time was 10 minutes. I'm happy to report all vacant medic positions have been filled and orientations underway. And that's all
I got one. Hey, Noah, I noticed on your report, you were saying that the Medic 40 ambulance was on track for a January delivery. So I'm kind of losing the bubble on this. Is that fitting our schedule like we anticipated?
We were anticipating the end of December. They've had a COVID-related issue in the plant, I'm told.
So is that going to fall out of our CARES Act funding or?
There's some wiggle room in that. I believe the way the rules work is that there's something really related that they might get some relief. Also, we have committed money, so there's going to be a little bit of we didn't want to get into that unless we had to. And obviously, if we ordered and they can make it, that's their mercy. That kind of thing. So we don't feel too bad about it yet.
Yeah, okay. So I can sleep tonight. All right.
Me too. When I got that, I was a little nervous.
Okay.
There's also at least an option we were looking at before the pandemic, so it wouldn't be that cold of now.
All right. Thanks, Noah.
All right. We got John Shear.
Okay, so 8 months into the COVID issue, the numbers we just keep going up a little bit each week. Today there are 156 cases and 10 in the hospital. They've been in the hospital, I don't know, just go ahead. And we still keep the number of 3 fatalities here in the county. We do have an outbreak here in a long-term care facility in Madison. We have staff and residents both testing positive. We're working with mediation and to make sure that we give them everything we can do to help them with the spread in that facility. That's about it from town here. Culpeper, I don't know if anybody's been watching. Culpeper's had a major spike, largely from the Coffeewood Correctional Center. They actually had 169 inmates tested positive, 13 employees have tested positive. So that's not very far across from that. So you go to the shop here, they're 169 there. And just so everybody knows, there are going to be a mass testing site in Brandon Station November 12th, and they have 500 tests available. So somebody needs to get tested. I guess everybody's been reading the news, watching the news. Pfizer's coming out now. Looks like they're going to be applying to FDA for approval for a vaccine in the coming weeks, and it's reported to be 90% effective, which is outstanding. The numbers are accurate. Like we always go back to that. Numbers are accurate. Of course, VBA, long-term plan for vaccinations. The more I talk to those people, logistically, it's going to be a massive project to vaccinate all of our people in the county and state. So it's going to be huge. Also, the governor spoke at length today. They're testing over 20,000 people a day, so obviously our numbers are going to be identified as going up. The real deal is 6.2% positivity rate in those tests. His big concern, the governor's was, is Southwest Virginia has 9.2 positivity rate. But here in hometown Madison, we're in good shape. So,
Fine. Anybody got anything for John Shear? Roger Barry.
Well, we got inmates back this week, and we put up the wreaths on Main Street, we put the lights on the trees, trying to get ahead with this warm weather. We got the benches trimmed today, so.
Great. Great. We got anything for Roger? Roger.
Get a chance to come by. The consoles have been installed in dispatch. Everything's a complete facelift of that building. We have people far more spaced out than we did before, with plexiglass partitions in between them. So hopefully that will keep us, if somebody does come in with COVID, keep us from being exposed. The chairs are also in, they are also in use now. We're able to sanitize everything as people leave and switch shifts. Things going really well with that. Radio project is on track. We're supposed to have a staging meeting in Chicago the second week of December, as of this morning. We will fail safe the entire system at that staging facility. We are still, the biggest thing that we have to do right now are the sites, the Keys River site and also the PRA site. The balloon test for the PRA site is being scheduled sometime at the end of November. We should be seeing something come out in paper with that pretty quickly. And I'll let everybody know when that test is going to be, so that we can out there and look at it and see exactly what we're bringing up with. Other than that, next gen, the VESA system is installed and operational. I'm working with Geocom to upgrade our mapping system to a cloud-based version, which will save us a significant amount of money. We've had that a couple meetings back. Trying to get all the GIS information up on board with that right now. Which has turned out to be a little bit bigger project than I thought. Other than that, I'm short-staffed by 2 with a pretty good candidate coming in towards the end of the month with experience. So hopefully that pans out, and I'll have that more.
Anybody got anything for Brian? Other than thank you for not putting up a cell phone tower in Somerset. All right, Greg Cave.
Well, I'll touch on Megan's department a little bit next month. She can give her a briefing. Like I said before, just training. I have Megan enrolled in her FEMA courses, John, so as soon as she gets those set, she's going to start taking any pet-related, animal-related courses for FEMA. Numbers are still low at the shelter, which is a good thing. 10 cats, 1 dog. That's why we haven't been able to attend any of the adoption events at PetSmart. However, we were down there last Saturday with 1 dog. They got adopted. So, still have 1 vacant position that we're trying to fill at the animal shelter for the kennel assistant. And VDAX is still offering several online courses for animal control officers, kennel staff, so any that will relate to the animal shelter, Megan can also fill in on those as well, so she can be taking those with me. So other than that, just staying busy.
Exciting down there.
Yeah.
That's the way to be. It is good to see y'all post about adopting our animals. I want to say the dog's name was Cookie or something like that, but it's good to see y'all doing that. That's great. And I assume that's still Shannon.
Yes.
Yeah, speaks super highly of her. Anybody got anything for Greg? Tracy, other than having a great day with happy birthday, what have you been doing?
Well, we can go into revelation now and later, whatever you guys want to do. Thanks for coming for those that did. It was a wonderful event on the 29th of October. The clouds dissipated and the sun came out and the mountains appeared and it was really great. We got good coverage on that. We can go on to that too. Governor has directed an additional $30 million for Rebuild Virginia, changing some of the guidelines. And Dave Reardon at the Culpeper, Lord Fairfax Small Business Development Center, said he's willing to help anyone. Still, on November 12th, we have a free webinar through the Central Virginia Small Business Development Center. And after that free webinar, mainly on social media, he's offering one-on-one with businesses, and so far no one's taken up on that. So hopefully they will. I'll be attending the Tourism Summit on November 16th. They're putting everything in half, so it's going to be safe. And on the 17th, we're a guest at the virtual Quad County Business Summit. And also attached real estate stats, which I did not bring with me. And sent to you guys too, hopefully.
All right.
So you want to do the?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
What are you talking about, the grant process?
Just, yeah, rough.
Y'all want to go ahead and knock out the grant process off new business? Go ahead, Tracy.
So Michelle at VDAC said today she hopes to have the first draft for the performance agreement by the end of next week. And then she'll share it with us to make any changes to that. Then we'll send it to Francoise for her to review and make any changes. Then we'll send it back to them. They will send it to the Attorney General's office after they approve it. Then it'll be sent back to us for review and execution. And from at that point, the county can request the funds for the APIC grant. And along with my report, I put that in there too. Since it's been announced, we can officially approve the grant process or approve the grant. And then from that point, they have 30 days to get the $25,000 to us, and then we have 30 days to get that $25,000 to Revelation, which means in between that time, we have to meet with the IDA. They have to open up a checking account for 1 day and get the check done. And then regarding the in-kind amount, I spoke to Jamie, I think last week maybe. So we'll need some type of memorandum so that our in-kind part goes when they do any type of permitting fees that get waived for Francoise. And then after the 3-year agreement, performance agreement, then the difference between that and the 25 we make up, which is generally, it just kind of goes by the amount of real estate taxes, even though that's not what we're actually using. And when we get to that point, we have a reason, we'll have the IDA meet. And Jack suggested a great idea, and one of the older members agreed to do a training session with the new members. And then I will work closely with Revelation and VDAX regarding the performance contract. They have to provide a report once yearly, but we'll be discussing it a lot more during that time.
All right, Hobbs, you got anything on this?
No, the idea where I asked Tracy to put this together for the board this evening, this came to the board in a closed session several months back, so I don't know if you all remember it, but these are pretty standard procedures in some parts about how these supposedly state grants get run through the county's books for local developments. The upshot of it is we need to do several meetings. There's a bunch of contracts, and we have to open bank accounts and this and that. So there is significant legwork to do over the next, what, Tracy, 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
But we'll keep things moving. But right now we're stuck because we need the actual true documents from the state before we can actually get to work. I think what Tracy has in front of you are specimen documents that they've used in the past.
Very good.
So, Mr. Hobbs, this board needs to, at some point, approve this grant.
Yes, sir.
Formally, but is that after the IDA?
I'm not clear on the steps, but we do need to develop the grant agreement, and the way it help me, Tracy, but it's between the state, the county, the IDA, and the applicant. And so it's, well, here's a grant, but here are the rules, and here's what triggers what.
We're not ready to do that tonight.
No, sir, but we're, like I said, we're laying groundwork tonight, so you're not caught short a month from now, but we have to do it yesterday.
Gracie, you got anything to add?
No, we should have a performance contract by the end of next week, definitely before the next meeting at least, so. And they're very specific.
This is a different state agency, but it's, if I understand, generally, per the grant agreement the county had with Plow and Hearth several years back, if you remember that. So the county's portion comes in waived building permit fees and increased real estate tax revenue.
Mr. Chairman, I got one more thing, Tracy. So when I saw the Rebuild Virginia grant opportunities, I forwarded it on to a number of people, and they've come back to me since then saying, no, we're not eligible because of this reason, and because they got PPP, or because they already got CARES Act.
Doesn't matter, they can still apply.
They can still apply.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
And Dave Burton opened it up, so he must not be getting many requests. He's willing to help, so you can send them to me and I can forward it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions for Tracy? All right. And I thought you walked out because you didn't want to answer our questions, Livingston. What have you been doing, Livingston?
Same stuff.
Yeah.
ERP services on in there. So they'll be able to get in. This is a lot of trouble. If I did implement my trouble ticket system so soon, I'll be able to, already got 50 tickets.
How many days? Yeah. Good.
That's around.
Thank you, Livingston. Clarissa is in Tahoe, I think visiting her sister. She did want me to pass on to Carolyn Watts, who was a former Commonwealth attorney and circuit court clerk, has passed.
No.
She was first elected in 1984 and basically devoted her life after that as public service. Our condolences to her family and thank her for all her service to Madison County. Worth mentioning. Anybody else? Move on. Old business. Ms. Hobbs, CARES Act grant status.
Ms. Costello was not able to complete her work on this. I think we do have a couple things outstanding. The plan is to come back to you in 2 weeks with a report that was to be delivered today. I do think we have a couple things outstanding. There's the issue of the 4-H money, the Early Learning Center. I think there's some EMS items that are still pending. But we, last I checked, we don't have a good idea on the total commitments yet. So we're not fully ready to move. There's also been a discussion with the town about its monies.
Thank you. I would think that the town, frankly, kind of goes to the top of the list on the basis that we do need to give them some of this CARES money. I mean, that's what it was meant for. And they have been instructed at this point that they must communicate with MJ to make sure all their documents and paperwork's in order, so they're straight. Cardi talked to Jerry today. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So Jerry Carpenter called me today, and he was thinking that, asked me if there was any CARES Money Act left. And I said, well, that's quite a question there, but we will probably know more by the end of November, 1st of December meeting. When people do not, when organizations do not spend their entirety of their money, then there will be some money left over. So he is proposing, and I told him I'd bring it up to you all, that we take this opportunity to run electricity from the barn out there to where the farmer's market tent was last year. Y'all remember where, right on Fairgrounds Road up there. That would provide, I mean, it's a huge tent. That would provide another space for social gatherings for people to congregate,
or these vaccinations like John's talking about, you might be able to set up under there and have somebody drive through. The only other place I can think of would be the fire department where you could drive through and do that. The fire department? But, so he sent me a text just a few minutes ago. It looks like it would cost between 5 and 6K. He's got a bid from REC to do the trenching for $2,100 and to pull the cable, of course. And that the rest of the 5 and 6K would be coming from us buying the pipe. What else? Oh, the panel boxes, all that kind of stuff. But you know, Parks and Rec has wanted to run electricity out that way, and if the money is there and it would be covered, I think it would be a good opportunity.
Let's see where the money's at this upcoming month. We know that there's going to be a remainder. We do have these outstanding obligations at this point and requests. See where we get, and we can try to figure out where it's at. It's not an unreasonable request, like everybody else.
Have to be a quick turnaround, perhaps.
Sure. Anything else on CARES? All right, moving on. Mr. Gregg, tell us about the MOU. We understand you got the phone call earlier.
Yes, and that's, again, I apologize for being late. I had 2 telephone calls today, one with our representative, the attorney at J Corp, and I spoke with Mr. Gwynn, who I'm told is a question. Where we left it, I'm following up again with Ms. Sullivan tomorrow, and I am hopeful that we're going to be able to come up with one with everybody. I think there's a little bit of movement on J Corp's part. And,
we're getting closer.
We are getting closer.
You think that there is we're supposed to implement this December 1st. I understand NOAA's doing work on that currently, trying to figure out the best way to work with rescue squad, and I hear everybody's working well together, which is just terrific. You think we'd maybe have something in our hands to sign on the second meeting in November?
I think that's possible. See, it's likely, it depends on how it's telephone coverage.
You know,
Will it ever happen?
Lawyers. I'm telling you.
Attorneys, anything.
I'm telling you. Gosh. All right, anybody else got anything on that? Hopefully you can sort it out and get this thing going. I mean, I do hear through Hobbs that things are going well out there, and that's great.
Well, and that may be helpful in terms of getting some.
That's helpful for everybody. Very good. Mr. Hobbs, talk to us about the format, content, schedule, and the planning session.
Yes, I wanted to have just a quick conversation about this. We have a little snafu. The School Capital Improvement Committee wants to meet on December 4. That overlaps your planned session. So I told them that works great for me because I'm not sure I'll be ready enough for that type of session that quick. So but I ask that you consider rescheduling that. Had conversation today with Mr. Jackson. I suppose he'd prefer to have it just before the January Planning Commission meeting.
I want to meet at 4. Meet at 4 on the 6th of January. And I'm gonna steal your thunder, Hobbs. I apologize.
Yeah.
Hobbs got some questions for us to fill out. And then also in talking to him earlier, it's the question of whether or not we need to bring in a facilitator to do this like we did the last time. My personal feelings are we can probably do it ourselves. What do y'all want to do? You want to bring in somebody? You just want to go through this and try to figure out a direction to go?
Where are the questions on the back of this?
This is what we did last year, Mr. Jackson. This is the agenda and the prep work that the facilitator went through last year. So we would model it, I guess, on some of that. An idea I would like to pursue is developing some of those questions and shopping that to the senior staff and to get some feedback on what the county's issues are and what our priorities ought to be to feed your
discussion. So if we don't get a moderator, which I remember Kevin saying last year, you've done them with and without moderators, and
Yeah, well, I'm game for trying it
without, yeah, I have to.
I mean, I like the ability to just shoot the breeze with each other. Yeah. Maybe off and on kind of thing. We'll see how it goes without the moderator. And
Tried it once with the moderator, might as well try
once
it
without,
again. That work?
at least you'll be around, Charlie, to figure out whether you need a moderator next time.
Right. Like you need a control.
Hobbs's comment over here about passing out some of these questions to the senior level staff, that's real good.
Yeah.
We can get into them, constitutional officers, they kind of see the direction they see us going as well. I mean, that can kind of, I don't know, at least put me in perspective a little bit. Good to hear other people's opinions.
And the planning commission,
Oh, absolutely.
if you would.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Thank you.
Just don't let Mike Fisher respond.
Anybody else got anything on this one?
So what I'm hearing is more of a roundtable discussion, not so much a facilitated discussion. So we would lean on you guys to carry those conversations. That makes sense.
Yeah, that
The
will be.
facilitator keeps things moving.
Yeah.
We have the talking point. I mean, yeah, I think they're already laid out. This helps some of our talking.
Somebody will need to keep things moving.
Yeah, you might have to.
We can
I
decide
think
whether
that's
that's
you.
Jack or the chair or
Yeah.
Or Chuck and Gracie.
Chuck.
Question.
Oh, no, we got.
Are we going to the barn again?
Man-sized map.
Are we going to the fancy barn?
We should be able to keep this thing going. I mean, Hobbs's list that we talked about, like what, 2 months ago now, when it pertained to the goals and kind of going through and checking off things that have been accomplished over the year. Oh, that was exceedingly helpful. And good to see that we've kind of made some progress over the last year, even with COVID, and it's just the way it is. Let's see how it goes and we can go from there.
Sounds good.
I guess just to get you started on it, I think we do have some things coming up. It's obvious that our projected outlays are going to be a lot greater than revenues at current rates for the next few years. So that's something's got to give there. Jackson has an idea about pursuing a better continuing ed program for staff, and that's good. I keep getting comments and questions about broadband and the county's role in promoting that. So if anybody has other issues that could be developed a little bit before you have this conversation, let me know and we'll put some talking points together for that.
Anybody else got anything?
Yeah, that VACO 2021 priorities thing that I was reading today, Jack, it had some good stuff in it.
All right, very good.
Anything else on top on this one?
We'll move forward with that, and if I have a better idea on facilitation, we'll get it done.
Very good. Good. Anybody else have any other old business? All right, we've already done the APHIS grant. Let's talk about the Craiglersville swinging bridges.
Yes, sir, and apologies, I have a little bit of a slideshow here for everybody, but the long and the short on this item is that we're not ready to make decisions. There are several things outstanding. We have a lot of options are out there. Figures aren't complete, so we're lacking when it comes to our ability to make much progress on this. So would ask you to have some conversation on this evening. So we talk about saving the swinging bridges, but I guess I'm not clear what that means. There's a lot of things floating in the engineering world. We talk about scope. I mean, how much are we talking about, and what do we have to work within? These cost estimates that VDOT provided were not exactly fully developed. They're lacking, for example, conversation about renovation cost versus replacement. They're very general.
They do not include right-of-way costs. I would be concerned with environmental permits and engineering when it comes to replacing one or two bridges across the creek. So some of this is just preliminary right now. I think the more fundamental problem we have with this whole project is that VDOT wants to move away from ownership and maintenance of footbridges. And that conflicts with the county and the neighbors' desire to retain the bridges. And of course, who pays for all that? So this is a source of some consternation there. In the engineering world, you start with, well, what is it you're trying to do? And so why would you have the bridge there? The usual thing is it's some sort of pedestrian access between the road and people's houses, and may have been the justification for building those bridges back in the day. I guess today there's roads that connect those houses to the rest of the county and the rest of civilization. So maybe those bridges you could consider them to be emergency ingress and egress for not just the people, but if there's some sort of public safety response kind of thing, we can carry people stretchers across the bridges, I suppose. But as all things Madison, we like nostalgia, we like to preserve history. And I think a lot of people have some fond memories of being in that area and swinging on the bridges and swimming in the creek. And that's what this is about. We can talk about recreation, but my friend Patrick Mauney in the front row here, who I asked to come and share in the conversation, will tell you that if you have a transportation facility, a bridge that's a recreation facility, the folks that pass out grant money for that usually like to see that on some sort of defined trail. So a footbridge to nowhere, as it were, just doesn't quite click if you're pursuing recreation money. If you look at and these next two slides came from VDOT, but the upshot of it is the bridge decking is decaying, and it's because it's made out of wood, and of course wood rots. And since they stopped putting arsenic in treated wood, wood rots a lot quicker these days than it did back in the day. So a large part of the problem is the rotting wooden bridge deck. And so that brings me to a question about, well, if we just got that replaced with metal or Trex or some other type of material, would that not make it a safe and usable bridge? And that's one honest question we ought to be asking VDOT at some point. We talk about, how far do you go in this business of scope? Save the bridges. I'm not clear from the board's perspective whether we need to work on both bridges or focus on one bridge versus the other. And that would steer a lot of conversation, especially when the cost estimates that came in were based on a per bridge basis. I think the early conversation is to get the Lindsay Lane Bridge back open, but if this becomes a VDOT replacement project, it could very much take years before that comes to pass. And so that's that might not be what the board wants to hear, but that's been my experience. I know that some folks talk about saving the bridge, replacing the bridge, and that's fine, but the nostalgia is with the swinging aspect of it. It's a cable suspension type bridge now. That might not, replacing it with a truss bridge, I gather, might not be what the board expects. It's not the preferable outcome here. So then there's always the issue of cost. And I guess it's an honest conversation. We talk about replacement or repair at the lowest overall cost or at the lowest that impacts the Madison County budget. So that's a couple of different ways to look at it. So the upshot of it is there's just too many unknowns and too many options to chase before we get too far into it. Here's the usual. I mean, who's interested in this and who has to pay for it? Who are you going to get calls from? And this is as you would expect, but go past that. And to recap what VDOT put in front of you, these are rough replacement costs. They do not include right-of-way acquisition or environmental permits, but replacing with a prefabricated truss bridge is $1 to $1.5 million a piece. That's before we talk about right-of-way costs. I gather VDOT expects to be donated by somebody else and not purchased by them. Depending on what path is taken, there are widely different timetables involved. So if it's a replacement project involving grant money, some of you will have heard my story about the project we got into in Amherst. It was just a simple sidewalk project, about a mile sidewalk, but started on it when my child was in kindergarten and he was in high school before the sidewalk was finished and driving, and so didn't get to walk to school on the sidewalk. His father helped pursue. So it takes that long on some of these projects. Not what you want to hear, but that's the reality for some of these processes. Talk about possibility of ownership locally, whether it's the county or a foundation of some sort. There is maintenance cost, ongoing maintenance costs with these things, and of course liability. So that would steer this away from local ownership and maybe across the board to want it to stay in VDOT hands. And obviously, if there's repair work done on the bridge, that forestalls the inevitable. At some point, you do have to replace these bridges. Everything that man builds does have a life cycle. So, if we repair it this year, how much repair do you do to have to keep back from coming back 5 years, 10 years from now? And then when would you expect to have to replace the bridge? And proper is the thing. I'm not clear on the path of involving outside consultants that are not VDOT proper. I believe that when they get involved in maintaining their facilities, their engineers and their consultants are the ones that listen to. Outside opinions are great, and they can help us ask the right questions, but it's VDOT engineers we'll have to work with if it's a VDOT project. I do think the UVA professor raises some good questions when it comes to going after heavy rehab, heavy remodeling and all of that, but these would be questions that would be VDOT's to answer. There's all these different ideas about where money might come from. There's VDOT maintenance money, but I guess the blunt thing there is that any money spent on these bridges would be taken away from our local road construction and maintenance dollars. And so that diverting money to this effort would hurt that. There's the VDOT grant funding programs and project funding programs that Mr. Moore is going to help me with in a minute. And there are other things that are much less preferable that do take a lot of county involvement. And just simple project management sounds easy, but it takes a lot of effort to have community meetings and work with consultants and talk about budgets and bid contractors and inspect construction. So if this stays in VDOT hands, it would certainly be the path to go when it comes to staff bandwidth. Thought it might be good to have a quick conversation on the different grant and other funding programs that VDOT put forward, more from I guess a not VDOT perspective. So Patrick, chime in here, but the first one is this Transportation Alternatives Program. This is, I believe they call it the T regime of what flavor of tea we're on. This the Transportation Enhancement Program is you make an application on some cycle, and 6 months later they recommend it, and 6 months after that you get contracts, and then you can start your engineering and environmental permitting and all that. Patrick, that's
so. And looking back through the presentation from VDOT, I guess the last meeting, and going through the slide here that Mr. Officer prepared. If you're looking for the fastest VDOT funding source that could potentially be used in this project, then it would be the Transportation Alternatives Program. That's one where it's as outlined on the fourth bullet point there, has a next deadline of next July for 2021. Funding would not be allocated until June 2022 by the Commonwealth Transportation Board, and once that funding is allocated, you would then have a period of time to get a contract, sort of like with the AFID grant that Gardner presented on earlier. I would say best case scenario, if you went through that TAP program on that timeline, potentially the money would be there for construction at 2024. Revenue sharing, which traditionally in the past 10 years has been a faster program because there's a higher locality buy-in, 50% buy-in. Typically, that's been one where if you apply on that same timeline of, late, it would be late 2021, funding, if it was selected, would be awarded in June 2022. Traditionally, over the past years, that funding has then become available more quickly. So again, and this would be about the same as the Transportation Alternatives Program. Because of the revenue shortfalls at VDOT this year, revenue sharing money is likely going to be pushed back. So that funding probably would not be available until 2025 or 26, again, if you went on that first timeline. Still with that higher 50% local match. The other one that, again, with secondary funds, again, a low amount of money that's available, also taking away from other secondary road priorities in the county. Again, I think the main point of what I'm trying to say is, and I agree with what Mr. Hobbs said, is that there's a lot of decision points that have to come before even deciding which of those grant programs to look at. Again, they're not quick fixes. They're not anything that's going to get the bridge that Lucas Lane has been closed, open in 6 months. These are, multiple year long processes, which entail some, significant investment of time and resources. In this case, both of them would require, county investment in terms of grant management, things like that, beyond it. Anytime you go into a grant situation, there's additional strings attached, and that just drags out the whole process here. So unfortunately, from those funding options, neither is fast. For revenue sharing, again, has been faster in the past, but because of the revenue impacts on transportation funds, likely is not going to be any faster than it would be if it was a smart scale project such as the project down at Shelby Road, which is sort of the last years of the 6 years of the program.
All right, so with that, we some discussion on goals and priorities and what kind of constraints and what you expect out of this would be helpful, because we're stymied in making recommendations until we get a better grip on that. That's what I have.
Ms. Shepherd did reach out to me, as it was 2 Fridays ago. She had obviously read, I think she actually read your article, Chuck. And she wanted to make sure that we were aware that she was more than willing to work with us. She didn't have a whole lot. She said there was lots of options, but basically alluded to what Mr. Money is saying. It is a slow process. I think the comment that we definitely should get to is what Cardi went to the last time, is where these maintenance documents that you've gotten to. It would appear that their main problem with the swinging bridges, and I think we should focus our effort on the Lindsay Lane Bridge, because the other one they have done the upkeep to by replacing some deck boards. But we still have not seen that. But if the auspice that she has alluded to is that the superstructure is the main problem there, with the foundation and the metal structure, and then boards being broken, of course. The question is how do we fund it? And how do we fund it with the least direct impact on Madison County taxpayers? I think, frankly, it would appear that we do not want to own this bridge. I don't see a whole lot of gain in that. This is a VDOT deal. Ms. Dixon made the comment at the Board of Ed, our meeting, during our talk on this, saying that she would do something on the a park on one side or something of that nature. So I would assume that the right-of-way stuff is not going to be the biggest challenge, but it will be a challenge. How do y'all want to proceed here?
Yeah, well, I was thinking about it, like I say, with, excuse me, there's 3 options. So VDOT owns and maintains, the county owns and maintains, or we abandon it and let the property owners own and maintain. Now, I read something, Sean, a while back saying that if a property owner has an agreement with the county to set up what they were calling a pocket park, that's the term they were using, or any kind of park, that the liability would not be on the property owner. So if somebody got hurt on that property, the property owner was not liable for it because they've got an agreement with the locality to allow public access to this piece of property. So what I was getting to is the fact is that there's this bridge on either side of the river is on private property. So I'm going to start asking these people, how far are you willing to go?
It is on private property, but it has to be within the VDOT right of way.
It depends on how old that right of way
Very-
is. It might, it may not be 50 feet,
But a lot of the old right of ways, aren't they
30.
generally 16 feet from the center line, the 32
So
foot
32
right
feet.
of way? And that bridge is real. I mean, it's pretty close to there, or at least on the I don't know, the Craigleyville side.
Yeah, that was the biggest surprise to me that VDOT didn't have deeded access to those bridges.
When were the bridges first installed?
This Lindsay Lane was 48.
So it was after the burn.
Actually, I spoke with the Department of Historic Resources today, and I was told that the Lindsay Lane Bridge is listed as something that's in the historic register. And the person I talked to, Quattro Howard, gave me a name, a reference number. And said that you could, verify that it is in the historic register as a historic property.
What's the number, ma'am?
Pardon me?
What is the number?
It's 056-5040. He also took, my sister-in-law, Ethel Eden, is an archaeologist, and she directed me to a couple of people in Richmond. The project review architectural historian, Mark Tolma, review and compliance division. And because tomorrow is a holiday, I can't get in touch with him, but I plan to do that on Thursday to find out more. It looks like a good way to pursue a little more information than we're getting here along sort of another avenue. And I'm glad to hear Mr. Dell tell me that I wouldn't be liable if I did set up a little park area, that I wouldn't be liable, because I was thinking about that this afternoon. What would happen if someone were hurt? Thank you.
Well, our county attorney cringed a little bit when I said that, but I think you will find that I did not misread that, John.
Oh, I'm sure you didn't, but we would just need to prepare documents.
Sure, oh yeah, for all that.
So that's, the historic significance that's not what the VDOT told us, right? They said it wasn't eligible.
That's what she said.
So that's good news if that's.
Say the number is 0565040.
Yes, that's what I was told. I was also referred to Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966, which I have not looked into yet, but I'll add that.
Which registry is this?
Is this the Virginia Department of Historic Registry?
Yes, Virginia Department of Historic Resources.
Looking on that page, they don't have a place to search this thing. Oh, I think give us a little bit of leverage.
More than what we got right this second.
How would y'all want to, Mr. Monty, what's your recommendation here to move forward with this? And to open it prior to 2026, because, I mean, and I hate to elaborate on this, it seems like the end game here is, if it's gonna be 2026,
we might as well just push this stupid thing over and be done with it. It just seems like that's the play that we're at this point, which seems contradictory to everything that every person in Madison County, and this is the unanimous thing on Madison County, is that we want to keep this bridge. We all like this. It's unrealistic to say that we're going to fund it by 2026, and it's just going to continue to get worse.
So two things, and I mean, not having sat in those presentations, but when I read through and reading the articles in the paper and on the internet there, to me, you have an estimate of 1.5 to 2 million or 1 to 1.5 million if you get the prefabricated truss. I think you'd want to show us the breakdown of that, because I'm not an engineer, so I don't know the cost, but it seems high from what people have said. So I think that, and then the maintenance records. To me, and the other thing I would say on the second bridge, not the Lindsay Lane Bridge, but the other bridge that's still open, if there are things that need to be done now, rather than getting to this point 2 years from now to keep that bridge functional, then I would definitely include that. I know you said you wanted your focus to be Lindsay Lane, and that makes sense, but do the things to keep that one functioning, because when Mr. Hobbs called me, I said, well, it seems like a discussion that should have happened 5 or 6 years ago in terms of how do we make sure the maintenance is happening, how do we make sure that we keep the road. So those are the two things to help get to that decision point. What I would say in terms of funding, if there are things that can be done, I mean, I know you had, I think on one of the slides, Mr. Hobbs said, crowdsourcing, we're getting, trying to not use county funds for it. I think if there are things that can be done that can be raised that way, or if you can raise it from non-grant programs, then the thing that we need to happen then is getting VDOT to agree that yes, we can accept these other funds to offset those and we can use those. The reason that the federal and state grant programs that VDOT, and frankly, because that's what's available and that is what makes the most sense. If you bring resources to them, then maybe that pushes that conversation a little further. And again, it was Al's point, maybe that also pushes the conversation back to VDOT keeping those bridges and maintaining them themselves, rather than having to explore a county or a three-party agreement or something like that. I think unfortunately, the answer is you still got to push on VDOT to get some of those answers in mind.
Mrs. Shepherd did convey that a GoFundMe type of method of fundraising would be an acceptable direction for the county percentage and match. So if community stakeholders wanted to put together some type of funding mechanism, that could work in our favor and potentially pull some of the monetary contributions away from going into the 6-year plan, which we know they have trouble accomplishing, and other things that we need constant maintenance on, like whippoorwill. You hear about it often. All right, so what do we need to do here, Hobbs? We need to contact Ms. Shepherd, get her to go down, or
I
we need to send them a letter?
We need to ask about the maintenance records and then more detail on these cost estimates.
In other words,
The folks from the Piedmont Environmental Council did suggest some language for a letter, but I think we'll tinker with that a little bit. But I'll work with Mr. Jackson here to ask these questions.
Yeah, the other one, wouldn't you think that before they condemn this, I mean, I would guess with the government agency, they would have some type of report from an engineer that would specifically state what is wrong with this bridge. And it's probably very formal with lots of pages, pages that you don't actually need, but we should get that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Does that seem reasonable? Anybody else got any suggestions on a swinging bridge?
No, Patrick, as a matter of course, though, or you might not know, or Jack, is VDOT, they should be giving us maintenance records on not just the bridges, but all our roads and stuff, and our main bridges and stuff as a matter of course.
I don't know if I would say give them to you. They should have them if you request them. I would think would be maybe the way to.
Yeah, I can't remember the cycle, but for highway bridges, I think it's every year, unless there's a problem with the bridge, and then it's every 6 months that they do a formal inspection. There's, some of those are pretty sensitive, and that's because some of them have got the term Jack may know, fracture critical elements. If we were not quarantined and people were more active in their terrorist activities, then they would want to know where we've got bridges that they could take. Now, we don't have to.
Oh, yeah, right.
But if you really wanted to, gum up the works in DC or somewhere like that, then you might want to know where there are some critical elements. So they're careful with that. They are supposed to keep those.
Do you think that's applicable to the Lindsay Lane Bridge?
My
Is that a hot spot that we need to be watching, or? That's
So
good.
my guess is on that, it's just a guess, I don't represent VDOT in this, is that, so it's an old bridge, so 1948, and that's a contemporary design to 1948, I suspect. I designed some pedestrian structures back when I was doing design work. The modern requirements for pedestrian structures are pretty rigorous. Because believe it or not, you can pack more humans into 100 square feet than you can cars sometimes. And if, people got the right frame of mind to go have some fun in the middle of a swinging bridge up at Bakersfield, they could take one of those down pretty quick. But VDOT's been able to grandfather in how they've maintained it up till now, but I'm sure there's a limit to how far they can go. I don't know what decision they've made now to actually finally close that bridge, but my suspicion is it's a combination of the design is just so obsolete. And there is some deterioration that's got them a little bit concerned that they can't even grandfather their way into a safe, open structure right now. So for what that's worth, doesn't represent VDOT. That's
So let's see if we can get, no, we wouldn't call you like that. Let's see if we can get maintenance records, cost breakdown, engineer report on condemnation. And then also, thank you, Ms. Dixon, we should be looking up this historic registry number and see what pertinence that has on this. If it is on that registry, contradictory to what VDOT said, then that has to put some weight on.
So we want Jack to send us a letter?
Not which one, not the, not PC's letter.
Oh, no, this is one you've written on your own, right, Jack?
I have not written a letter. This
I
is,
have telephone numbers, contact information for these two people that I was told are the people to ask if you want to know about the historic registry, which I can pass on to you. Thank you.
Pass on.
Where's the Howard come from?
that's the BDC.
Okay, so this was, no, we don't want this one.
Let's modify and come up with our own letter, and we should, we've got to thank DC for at least
Yeah, that
sending us
helps.
something and trying, and they asked us to copy for their record. We should CC them or whatever they do.
Gives them some information.
But let's come up with our own letter, see what we can follow through on this, preserve these bridges that we all kind of like, And John Shear, I keep an eye on that bridge. Anybody else got anything on this? What? Oh, heck yes.
I'm sorry I'm not present to comment on the current assessment, and this is from James Howe, Howe. On the current assessment by Mr. Hobbs, I think the situation is being made more complicated than it could be, which may be VDOT's intention. I think there are other alternatives, as Mr. Yao and Ms. Dixon mentioned, so they should be explored. Perhaps there should be a separate meeting with Madison County residents and the Board of Supervisors to find a resolution to this issue outside of VDOT.
Well, we got 1,000 signatures. If they all put up $1,000, we're in
$1
good shape.
million, we're in building.
It's $1 million.
There's more.
Uh-oh, yeah.
According to a colleague who was a former director of the VA Research Transportation Council, the report on the bridge should be public record. I'll pursue obtaining this report through him. That's James Howe again.
You're a good reader, Livingston.
let's get some of this stuff. I do think that we all would like to go around VDOT on this and figure out a solution that's kind of Madison's own. And I'm sure we will, but this is part of their network. We must figure out a way to work with VDOT and figure out a solution that's palatable for everybody. A good course of action. All right. Anything else on that one? All right. Any other new business? Have any information and correspondence?
I believe Mr. McGee might have
a
quick naming issue.
Oh, the mulatto run day.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, I met with, I don't know if everybody knows, but there's what is it, the Madison Equality Project? It's a group that, I don't know what they normally do, but one of the things they're pursuing right now is renaming the Mulatto Run Bridge, or the Mulatto Run, to, they've done some research to determine what the original name of that run was. And they've done, and that research has included pursuing the process it takes to officially petition the Board of Geographic Names with the Department of Interior, is that correct? Or something like that they've done a lot of the legwork. I think they've done all the legwork, with the exception of filling out official form that applies for this renaming of this geographical thing, and right. And they've offered, because I met with Becky Thompson from that group, and they offered to come and present, take a few minutes and just present what they have done and what they have found. It's the same process largely that we use to rename Thames River up in the park, as I understand it. So, but they can't. They can put everything together, but it kind of needs the county board to give the thumbs up. Yeah.
Why don't we invite them?
Well, I think that's what they were expecting. That's how I left it with them. I would bring it up and see if we could get them on a.
Why don't we invite them on the 24th? We'll bring some documents. Do we have to go through a public hearing process on something like that?
In all likelihood.
There you go. Let's have them come on the 24th to figure out what the process is, hear what they have to say.
So they'd be happy with that. Do you want me to reach out to them, or should Jack do that, or what do you want?
I'll reach out to them.
All right.
You're our contact. Anybody got any problem with talking to these folks? See what they got to say. If they've done all the legwork on it and no opposition to it, why would we not? Sound reasonable? Sir. All right, any other information and correspondence? Thanks for doing that.
I got one thing. On, what was it, the 19th of October, I guess we all got an email from VACO having a FOIA webinar that we could go on to this webinar on the 16th, and it would satisfy our training. But are you going to do the training again this year for Planning Commission and all of us, or what?
I'm happy to do it. I assumed I was going to be doing it, but.
Yeah. What do you want to do? You want to use them, or you want to use
I'd rather
an animated attorney?
I'd rather listen to Sean.
I agree with you.
So I can delete that email then. Did y'all get that?
When would you like to perform this great task?
When would you like to do it? Christmas morning?
Yes, that would be appropriate. That or Thanksgiving.
Yeah, me too.
Hopefully right after we eat. What about if we do it at the, y'all want to do it? We got a pretty light meeting in November.
Jacqueline, what's the drop dead date on that? Do you know?
Let's do it at the next meeting. How long do you think it's gonna, or let's do it at the next planning
It
meeting.
was only 15 minutes.
It took very short,
Yeah.
so I mean, it would be, the next meeting will be on,
First Wednesday in
it's
December.
the 2nd of December.
December 2nd?
Yeah, and then we can knock both birds with one stone. Good suggestion.
I think I can do that. I know I am. I think I'm not following those.
So the goal session's gone.
What?
We had a goal session set up for that, right?
Yes, sir.
Move that to January.
That's January 6th at 4.
Yeah, I can do it on December 2nd.
All right, we'll make sure we convey this at the planning commission workshop so everybody comes.
And when is it you're gonna do this?
We're gonna do it at the December 2nd meeting, joint meeting. We'll do all the cases, any business we've got, and at the end of it, before everybody adjourns and leaves, Sean Gregg's gonna talk to us for 15 minutes about the league.
Fantastic.
Very complicated thing. It isn't. All right, anything else? All right, we don't have a closed session. Public comment. Any public comment? Public comment. All right, let's close the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Hey, Roger.
Let me know the chicken.
I didn't bring it up.
You all right? Rainy, make a recommendation.